All right, talking about making a safe and conducive environment for working with salvia. This is a topic that I have talked about before, but right now I kind of wrote out a few things and I wanted to make a little video on the things that I know from, basically doing this for 20 years or so, and how especially important it is with salvia to have a safe environment. Salvia is not like other substances. A lot of substances you can take, like DMT or 5-MeO, ketamine, lots of different psychedelics you can take, and you end up just laying there. A lot of them just put you out. Like you'll just close your eyes and just be out for several minutes or even longer. Not quite as much with longer lasting psychedelics like mushrooms or LSD or mescaline and things like that. Um, if you take a lot, it might put you out for a little while, but I've taken a lot of stuff, and I've definitely moved around and did all kinds of things. I remember one time I decided to take, it was about 9.5 grams of mushrooms. This was maybe like, I don't know, 12 years ago or so. And I was in my apartment at the time. My girlfriend at the time, we shared an apartment. She was out of town. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I did it. And after 45 minutes or an hour, it came on hard. And I put on some music and sat in the living room or laid down. And I just started to go off into the experience. And I was in the experience. I was just in rapture, experiencing all kinds of crazy things. I did not have a body anymore. I was just, I don't even remember now, but I definitely was not aware of my surroundings at all. Like at all. I had no idea who I was or where I was or anything like that for the most part. But when I came to hours later, I was I remember the first moment I started to come to, I was in the bathtub and I had turned on the water and I was in the tub and I thought I can control the temperature of the water just by looking at different colors on the wall. Like if I looked at warmer colors or colder colors. And then things were blurry after that. And then I ended up in the bedroom and that's when I came to. And I just remember coming to and feeling really hot. And I noticed that there's a sopping wet towel kind of right next to me on the bed. And I thought I had reincarnated into a different body or just jumped into someone else's body. And I thought I was in Texas at the time, but I thought I was in like South Central LA in some like crummy apartment. And because I was hearing like sirens outside, there's people next door. They were having a party in the apartment next door. And I went and wondered why it was so hot. And I just look at my thermostat and I turned my thermostat up to like 90 or something. So the heater was on. This was like in the summer. So anyway, I had taken a lot of mushrooms and I totally lost ability to control myself. When I walked around my apartment, I had thrashed everything. I had a computer and that computer was just knocked over. There was plants, those were just thrown all over the place. The kitchen, like the grills on the stovetop were just like on the ground. There was just stuff everywhere. I don't know what I was doing. I was rolling around or running around. I don't know at all. So that brings me to the point with salvia is that even though it's a very short experience, when I break over the edge and lose awareness of what my body's doing, I may be feeling my body or there might be a lot of movement that I sense and am experiencing, but I don't know what my body's doing, especially at higher doses. So I eventually just built a chamber kind of like the one back here. You can barely see it, but I've posted about it and talked about it before. Um, and that is, it's inside. There's a mat to lay down. On this one, I put some kind of these acro mats. I line the entire interior so it's soft inside so I can't hurt myself. It's got ventilation. That's what those boxes up top are. It's like a quiet ventilation. Anyway, so I can go in there and lay down. and take something. I generally do salvia, and I know even if my body lets go, I'm not going to get hurt. Um, so that's the number one safety concern with salvia at higher doses, especially, but even at medium or low doses, sometimes people don't weigh doses out properly, or they don't know how sensitive they might be this time, and they'll break over that edge and lose consciousness of their body. And I mean, when I do it, I can roll around, I can do all kinds of crazy movements, I can thrash around, and I'm not really aware of it. But when I'm in there, I know that I'm not going to be thrashing around in a room or throughout my house, or, God forbid, go outside and have the neighbors see me. Um, Honestly, that was one of the reasons why I built it too. Was like this fear of losing control, and then all the anxiety that comes up of wondering, am I getting hurt? Am Are people seeing me, or are people hearing me and calling the cops because they are wondering what's going on? Stuff like that. Um, Back in the 2000s, when people started doing salvia, they had no idea what was going to happen, and a lot of people, like, they would freak out. Usually we do them in like groups of people, and one person would do it and everybody would watch and just, be entertained by what's going on and laughing, and like the person would start to a lot of times just feel terror because they're having this insane experience they weren't expecting, and they're just trying to get out of the experience, or they might not even be aware that they're trying to get out of an experience, and they start running around, or they go, I need to get out of this room, or I need to get out of the house. They just want to kind of escape, and that could be a pretty precarious place to be, and extremely dangerous too, especially if there's hard surfaces or glass or all kinds of objects around you can run into. um, there's this guy, he posted on Reddit, I don't know, a couple years ago, and he had fallen. He had taken salvia and then accidentally jumped through the window from his fifth story apartment. And I'm not sure what his conditions now, but he had like landed on his butt basically and shattered his pelvis. I'm not sure if he's paralyzed or just, I'm not really sure. I should probably check in on that. But he got pretty messed up. So it's really important to know that you can lose total awareness of your body, and you're not just going to lay there like you do on a lot of substances. You potentially can get up and move around, and all kinds of things can happen. And you don't want to come to falling out your fifth floor window and thrashing your apartment or whatever. So I guess I really went full on into safety concerns with salvia here. Um, so I wrote a few notes here. I'm not going to make this video super long, but I just wanted to talk about a few points. So basically, a safe environment for the reasons I just described. And generally, what you do is, well, what you'd want is a room that is completely safe. And by safe, I mean, the ideal situation is have pretty much an empty room that has like a mat on the floor. Even ideally would be like the walls are somehow padded, but generally drywall is not going to hurt you too bad if you like ram your head into it, because you'll break the drywall. But I don't think you necessarily want to do that. But you don't want any hard objects around, sharp objects around, knives, guns, stuff like that. All that stuff should be somewhere else or locked away. Um, Imagine that if you lose total control of your body and you start running around, thrashing around, just imagine the things you really don't want to be running into and take those out of the room. Um, if you have like a spare room, or like a walk-in closet that's like 6 or 7 feet long at least, that you can go inside and lay down, then that's a great way to just create a contained space for you to be able to just do it in there and know that you're going to be safe if you start moving around. So converting a closet, changing up your room, removing stuff, like, it really just depends on your situation, but just keep this stuff in mind. Ideally, you'd have just a room dedicated to this, but if you don't, just try to set up your room in a way where you're not going to hurt yourself on anything if you were to smack your head onto it. Um, so then, excuse me. So the next part would be having a room that you can make it completely pitch black. Um, I've I've experimented with blindfolds. You can use blindfolds. I find them to still be distracting unless you have one that, like I have one. I probably should have brought it, but it's called a mindfold. If you look that up, it's basically a blindfold with like thick padding, and then there's holes in the eyes like this, so that you can open your eyes comfortably, and you're not going to be having anything pressed on them, and you'll still be in the pitch black. Um, my house is shaking right now. There's like an airplane flying overhead. It's shaking my house. Um, so, but I always found blindfolds to be kind of annoying. I used to just wrap a shirt and things like that over my eyes, and then I got tried different blindfolds, but they always kind of bugged me a little bit. Um, but if there's no way to make your room pitch black, which you shouldn't have a reason why you can't, then you can use a blindfold. Um, Ways that you can make your room completely dark is to cover up the windows, get light blocking curtains. But even that might not be enough. You might need to do a little bit more. Like in my studio here, I needed to block this window of light so that all the lighting in here just stays consistent for videos. So I put up just a piece of cardboard that covers the whole window, and then I have curtains over. Um, but yeah, there's ways to block all the light. And like if you have a doorway that light creeps through, you can, stick a little, throw a towel down at the bottom of the threshold and just kind of do whatever you got to do. So I really recommend a room being able to be pitch black because what is shaking over here? Anyway, what is going on here? Oh, it's the wind. Okay. So I recommend there being pitch black because, especially at lower doses, but even as you go into larger doses, when you lose total awareness, light can still be distracting at any dose level. Um, so, say I'm feeling some effects and I might be seeing stuff, visuals, or, there's all kinds of things that can happen. But generally, light I find to be kind of bothersome. It either there's something about it when I'm seeing light in my vision, I can like feel the light, and it kind of just impedes onto me or something. And I feel it. And then if I start to move, if I'm not totally aware, if I start to move my head, the light moves too. And it can be just really disorienting and confusing. Not that Salvia is not confusing already sometimes, but it just takes that out and allows me to stay in the trance, because not only can it be distracting, but it also creates this kind of anchor in reality where you might be starting to feel the trance of the experience, but then you'll see the light of the doorway or the window or something like that, or your ceiling fan, and you'll just immediately remember, oh, I'm in my bedroom, I'm this person, I did this today. You start to kind of reconstruct who you are again, and that kind of breaks the trance, because a lot of times with salvia we lose awareness of who we are, where we are, when we are, and that adds to the experience by letting it kind of suspends our ideas and beliefs about ourselves, and it allows this trance to really unfold in a more free form way. So that's why I recommend pitch black. Whatever you got to do to do that, I would do it. And that's another reason why you want the room to be safe, because if you can't see anything, you don't want to be bumping into stuff and things like that. So that leads to, well, I should have probably talked about this first, about setting some uninterrupted time. When someone does salvia, either you smoke it, which is going to last 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. If you chew it, it's definitely going to last longer. You could expect an hour to 2 hours of time that you'd want. So, I'd say if you're smoking it, make sure you have at least like a full hour where you're not going to be interrupted in any way. Your phone's off, um, unplug your doorbell, let people know, hey, I'm going to be doing this. Anybody that lives with you or anybody that might come by, let them all know that, hey, I'm going to be doing this. I need not to be interrupted during this time. So if you're smoking, I would say at least an hour. If you're chewing, I would say at least 2 to 3 hours where you're not going to get interrupted. So do whatever it is you need to do to ensure that. Um, Aside from people interrupting you, um, it could be a time of day where there's, I don't know, wherever you live, there might be things going on outside. There might be, you know, gardeners or like yard workers that are turning on their leaf blowers and weed whackers and stuff like that. That was one of the things I actually dealt with for a little while. Um, was so many of my neighbors at different days, they would have people come and do yard work, and I didn't know when that was going to be. And a lot of times that happened just in the middle of my trip, and I'd be like, oh my god, what is that noise? It would just jar me a lot. So that's one of the reasons why I built this, because this blocks a lot of the sound. So yeah, just think about things like that. You ideally want to not be interrupted by anybody and not be interrupted by sounds or other stuff like that. Um, so that leads to the next part, which is having an environment that's totally silent. I I've experimented with sounds, like nature sounds, really high quality nature sounds with headphones in. But generally, I get a lot more out of the experience, and I just genuinely like it more of just having total silence, and I just am with my body and I'm with my mind. And I mean, the mind can generate all kinds of sounds too. So um, having an environment where it's going to be through the duration of that time you set aside, it's just going to be nice and quiet. A lot of times I end up doing it really early in the morning or just late at night, um, when there's not a lot going on during the day. There's not a lot of cars driving by. There's no yard work or roof work and things like that going on in the neighborhood. So pick a time where it's going to be quiet, and do whatever you got to do in your house to make sure things are going to be quiet. Like, I don't know, whatever it is that makes noise in your house, um, just turn it all off. And that just allows the experience to just unfold even easier, when it's not interrupted by sounds in the same way it can be interrupted by light, or people. And it allows the experience for you to just relax into the experience and just let it unfold and let yourself go through the whole thing, because sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's challenging, and we don't really realize that until it comes on, and we need to have a space and time set up for that whole experience to be able to happen. Um, so yeah, the next part is being in an environment where you're able to emote if you have to. Um, a lot of times when I worked with Salvia, I mean, obviously still do, there'd be a lot of times where I'd be just going through stuff, going through challenging experiences through with it, and I would feel a lot. I would feel a lot of pain, or I would be dealing with a lot of stuff in my life and things like that, and I would need to cry. And sometimes I would cry hard. Like I'd be wailing and just freaking out, and just it was like a way of releasing. And a lot of psychedelics, crying is a way of releasing. A lot of other psychedelics that I'm not a huge fan of involve like throwing up to release things, or shitting your pants to release things. And I've done a lot of that, and I like crying more, which is, I'm glad Salvia doesn't create nausea and create these other things. So having an environment where you can feel safe to make a lot of noise, like cry really hard, yell really loud. Maybe you need to like just move and thrash around or pound. A lot of times when I was in my chamber, I would just feel it's probably just old pent up trauma or pain and stuff But one of the things that felt good was to like pound, and like I would just pound on the floor really hard, or just yell really loud, or cry super hard. But for a while, when I didn't have a safe environment to do that, I just was all I could think about was, oh my God, what if somebody hears me? What if someone gets concerned or alarmed? What if they go, what's going on in that guy's house? I hear yelling, I hear crying, I hear whatever, thrashing, pounding, especially living in an apartment or something like that. And I would start to get really worried about that because I don't want to alarm anybody, and I don't want people to necessarily know what's going on. And the last thing I want is be in the middle of my trip or coming down and then cops come knock on my door because someone called and said, we heard yelling and crying, or I don't know. Not that many people would call about that, but some people do. Some people, especially experiences I've had where like the crying I'm doing is really, really intense. It sounds like somebody's being murdered or something. It sounds really bad. And it's just part of processing out what's going on. And I really just didn't want people to be worried about that. So that's another reason why I built this chamber, because it's got dual layers. This one that I made, it's got 2 layers of plywood, all the walls and ceiling, 2 layers of plywood with an inch of foam in between. And so that helps block sound from coming in, but also sound from coming out. Those boxes up there, um, they actually have, I don't know if you could see it, but there's like that black thing. That's the exhaust right there. And it's the same on both sides for the intake, but the inside of that is like a zigzag like this, and it's lined with foam. And that way the air could come out and just zigzag its way out and in without letting light in, but it also absorbs some of the sound. So it's a box that contains a lot of sound, but the ventilation system needs to be able to do that too. So that's why I built that. Um, and so being in there, and then being a house in a neighborhood, I know if I'm in there and I'm yelling at the top of my lungs or crying super hard, that by the time it leaves that box, it's going to be pretty muffled by the time it reaches this room. And then being so muffled, it's not going to make it outside. So, yeah, having a place where if you need to, you can emote and release and not have to worry about alarming anybody. So, that's that. Let's see what else I wrote here. So yeah, another thing is having a sitter. People that have never done salvia, or people that are moving into higher doses, and people just in general that even if they've done it a lot of times, you may think, oh, I don't move, or no, I would never worry about that. But if you don't have a very safe, contained environment, then having a sitter either in the room, if you feel really good with them, or at least in the next room. So if you want to be in the room by yourself, so you kind of can be with yourself and not have someone looking at you or in the same room with you, they could be in the next room. And that way, if things start to, go like things might go sour or something, or they sound like they are, that person could at least, take a peek and make sure that you're okay. Or at least make sure you don't go outside, or go out into another room where it's not safe, or stumble your way down some stairs or something like that. So I think having a sitter is super important. And the sitter should have a good amount of experience with salvia. Um, they should be able to understand the different facets of what an experience can look like, and what's okay and what's not okay. Generally, if someone doesn't have experience with that, they might be scared. They might get nervous or alarmed if you start to freak out. And you don't want a sitter that's like that. You want a sitter that understands what's going on, understands things can get messy, and they can hold that and just handle that. And then a sitter that can, if you are wanting to get out, or you are going to hurt yourself, they're able to protect you or stop you from hurting yourself. Um, you definitely don't want a sitter that's just going to be talking to you, or like, hey, like you see a lot of videos, are you tripping? Are you feeling it? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on, man? Or whatever. a sitter that's not fully understanding what the experience is, and it can make the experience pretty weird, pretty scary, pretty nerve wracking. So having a sitter that just understands that, but most important, the sitter's there to just make sure that you're safe and your body is safe. So I think that covers most of it. Yeah. Let's see if there's any notes or anything that I forgot to write down. Um, I think that's about it. I just wanted to kind of rant about it and just kind of throw my thoughts out there and just kind of make a little video based on these notes. A lot of people in forums and on Reddit and stuff, they ask, like, what should I know? Or what do I need to know about working with Salvia? Or I haven't done it before. Any tips and things like that. So this is one aspect of that. There's a lot of different stuff. Um, I did make a video series about how to work with Salvia using meditation and sitting or lying down practices. And if you go on my channel, you can find that playlist. But yeah, I'll just be making more videos like this. This is just kind of a little ranty video. Um, and yeah, I hope it was useful. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to say about this, but I don't think I do. So yeah, just make sure that you're in a safe place, safe environment, pitch black if possible, silence, or some ambient music if you really want it, but I recommend just being with silence because it really helps you focus on your body and the experience. Sound, especially if it's on a speaker outside of you versus headphones. If it's like on a speaker somewhere else, it could just, I don't know, pull you and just be very distracting. So yeah, having silence, um, environment where you feel safe to emote if you need to, and yeah, setting uninterrupted time. So make sure that no one's going to be interrupting, your phone's off or on silent, and alarms are off, and other things that might make noise. Just kind of think that through, what might interrupt this experience, and either adjust those things or do it at a different time where you're not going to get interrupted. Uh, yeah, having a sitter, we just talked about that, but just make sure the sitter is there to just keep you safe, and they have experience with Salvia in particular, and someone that is grounded and calming and can protect you if you might hurt yourself. Yeah, so yeah, if you like this video, just like and subscribe, and you could check out my channel for other videos. I'll be just putting out different stuff. This channel is mostly right now for just making educational videos, sharing insights and knowledge that I've experienced, sharing my own experiences, and just it's almost more for me to just articulate my thoughts and um, yeah, create content around all the stuff that I'm learning and experiencing and just sharing that with you. So if you like it, just subscribe and you'll see more of my stuff. Yeah, well, I guess that's it. Have a good one. See ya.